Welcome back, guys, on the eve of the kickoff of high school football season for 2023. Joe, I don't know if you're as excited as I am, not just on this about this interview that we're about to do, but man, just football season in general is finally here. And so you and I have been, prepping during the off season. We've had some outstanding interviews with some other coaches. Now, this week takes us back to the East Coast where we basically have a revisit from Coach Messary Hailemariam from St. Francis Academy. Coach, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to getting back on this phone with you.
And Larry,
Absolutely.
some of the experts in our industry are saying this could be the best high school football season in the history of the sport, and I have to agree with them.
Absolutely. Joe, why don't you kick us off?
All right, Coach. Number one, let's educate. Everybody who follows high school football is familiar with your program, but let's educate the masses tonight on the greatness of your high school, St. Francis Academy, that opened in 1828. Just give us a quick recap of what the school is all about and what's going on there these days.
Absolutely. As many of you are aware, but some are not, it's the oldest African American institution in the country, not just Catholic, not just high school, but in general. It was founded by a woman, a renegade nun, of course, brought against her will to be a slave, recognized children of slaves couldn't read or write because they weren't allowed to. So this woman kind of risked her life and founded this wonderful sanctuary of a school called St. Francis Academy before the emancipation, before we were freed or we were even allowed to read or write. If we were caught back then, of course, you either was beaten or killed. One of the two definitely was going to happen to you. So this school's existed ever since then, and it's still standing. And it's served a population and a community sometimes that otherwise might not be embraced by the world. We're trying to do what we can to bridge the gap to kind of even the playing field for some young people that otherwise might not be in the most ideal private schools or opportunities, and we get them out there in the world to compete not just in sports but in life.
Coach, along those same lines, St. Francis has a fantastic history that Joe's alluding to, and you just kind of summed it up in an eloquent way. Now, in modern day St. Francis, where you're working with your kids, how much of an emphasis do you put on the history of the school and teaching these kids, their roots and where they come from? How's that benefited them?
Oh, very much so. I mean, it keeps, puts a level of pride in our grit and our I guess work and in the process that we're going through. Regardless, even though we're in 2023, there's a lot of things that's happening to us as a school, um, that we were ostracized out of our own league for being too successful. Um, we always the underdogs or the black sheep of our community. Although we're representing our state and our community like no other, we're sending young men to universities all over the country. And the last 5 years, we sent over 150 student athletes on full scholarships to go to college. The last 2 years, we have five that are playing the NFL. 41 of the young men have graduated with masters besides undergrad, and 16 have gotten second masters. So, I mean, we just know that we might be the underdog in the world, but to us, we're the favorite. We're the ones that are going to try to succeed on and off the field.
And Larry, I've been to the school a few times. I had a son of mine worked in Baltimore for about a year. So me and Coach would hang out. And I've been to the school. I've toured it from the basement all the way up to the top. And it's like half the school is actually a museum. They have actually roped off on either the second or third floor the bed that Mother Mary Lang slept on. They also, during some construction, uncovered a Bible that was like one of the oldest Bibles ever found.
Wow.
And so it's like literally it's a museum and a high school all in one. It's pretty cool. And and anybody out there listening tonight, if you're in the Baltimore area, you want to stop by East Chase Street and talk to Coach and maybe get a visit. It's really it's a phenomenal place to know about and place to be. And they they've overcome so many odds over the years, and it continues in modern day 2023. It's still happening. So, Coach, let's talk about your the history of the football program. Obviously, you were there early on when you were everybody's homecoming opponent. Started to get good. I'd say you came on my radar about 2015, 2016. You finished in the top 100 in 2016, went 10-2. Your only 2 losses were to IMG and my alma mater, Paramus Catholic. And since that point, Larry, since 2016, all right, St. Francis only has 3 high school football losses. Right, Coach? Wow. Am I right? IMG last year.
You're right.
St. Thomas Aquinas the year before. COVID, they didn't play a season. 2019 Matterday and undefeated seasons in 18 and 17. So Larry, in the last 6 seasons, 3 losses to only IMG, St. Thomas Aquinas, and Matterday. So St. Francis can boast they're the only team in America that plays IMG each and every season.
So, Coach, what is the
twice?
Only one to beat them twice, correct?
So, Coach, what is the secret? You go back, like Joe's talking about. You go back to the 2015 season, and I'm looking at the historical record on the Max Preps website, and so back in 2015, 2016, you were like 0-6, 0-7, something like that, and then 2016 is really when you start your meteoric rise to the top. What's the secret sauce?
That's just hard work, perseverance, and one of the things that's missing now in the ingredients is having to go through your lumps. Having to build a program. That means that early on, when you're trying to compete against some of the best or teams that are a little bit more, I guess, on paper look better than you, there's no other way to develop a program than have to face those programs and those opponents. And as much as it hurts to get your tail handed to you once in a while, it makes you a better person, stronger person, and you learn not to want to taste that feeling at all. So to answer your questions, you just got to keep fighting. The term people use, how many times did it take to chop down a tree with the axe? Well, you don't know. You just got to keep chopping at it, right? And then eventually become so good at it, it's not as hard as it used to be. It's not so labor intensive. So the lumps I took early in my career as a coach and as a program, it paid off. The Paramus Catholics early with Rashawn Gary, and then we played them. They whooped us. The DeMathas, the good counsels, our own community. We were everybody's homecoming. And then, after a while, when you get bullied but so much, you're gonna fight back. You're gonna punch back, and eventually, I use the term all the time. It's no fun when the rabbit got the gun. So we used to be the hunted. Now we tend to do our own hunting. And the biggest thing I say to people every day is, again, we took that L with IMG last year. It was a great football game, but that's what sports is about. Yeah. You line up, and at any given day, a team could win if you're not prepared and ready to go. And those are the most exciting games for me, is to knowing that you're going into that battle and you have to be at your best, or you have to overcome a lot of your obstacles in order for you to get that W. And that's just a semblance of what it's like in life, period.
And Larry, what I love about it is in our society today, and I don't want to get too political, but there's so much boycotts going on. When somebody doesn't like something going on, they boycott. This is a great example. Their cowardly conference said, we're not going to play you anymore. And if you force us to play you, we're going to forfeit every game. So they said, okay, that's fine. We're going to be independent. And look what they've done. A lot of those cowards thought they were going to go under. And what it basically backfired on them. And now just look at where they've been ranked the last 5 years. Okay, number 5 last year at the end of the season, number 18. You skip COVID year, number 3 in 2019, number 5 and number 4 in 2017. And so in the last 6 seasons, they've been ranked between number 3 in America and number 18 at the end of the season. When most thought by pulling the plug on them via their conference, they weren't going to attain any success. They did that to harm them. They did that to harm them. They didn't think this was going to be possible, and they got the last laugh. And I love it. I love it, and that's why when people boycott, I shake my head and I give them the whole St. Francis story. And you fight against those masses, and every time, if you have the heart, you're going to win.
That's right. Coach, listen, what Joe's talking about here, I just want to explore a question with you. You said a while ago that before you started really winning a big time, you were everybody's homecoming game, and everybody knows what that means, right? They didn't view you as very good, so they invited you as a sure win, that kind of stuff. So when that happens to your team year after year after year, it would just piss me off, to be honest with you. And that's probably your mindset as well. But now, when Joe and I talk to these other prominent coaches nationwide, they don't view you as a homecoming opponent. When Joe, when we talk to these other coaches about their upcoming tough games, St. Francis Academy is usually at the top of the list. So, Coach, how do you guys view that now? Do you view it as a badge of honor? Do you view it as motivation that people are wanting to come to knock you off because you're at the top of the mountain now? Or talk about how you go from that mindset of being everybody's homecoming opponent to everyone's respected opponent now.
I mean, it feels good as a coach and a program. We've gotten to that point, but I'll say, the best way to approach life is to have your back against the wall in most situations. So, in my opinion, I keep them humble. I try to find ways to make them, just like how IMG did what they did with us. St. Thomas Aquinas, when we opened up 2 years ago, what they did when I came back at the helm. A given day, especially when you're so successful, you're everybody's target. I mean, the target's on your back, and they really want. There's people that would come and watch and cheer to see us lose more than they would to see the team win.
Wow,
it's a very powerful statement to say, but it's the truth. So that motivation has got to be there. The chip on the shoulders I try to create, and again, the wins mean everything when these kids are going to college. If we won and we weren't going to college, right, then what is it all for? And my thing, the games that are played that are like ours, honestly, let's be honest, most colleges look forward to the matchups that we go to, because what it does, yes, the scoreboard looks good, one the other one, but if you constantly playing against teams like myself and other teams that are Matterdays, the Boscos, there's more likely for kids to go to Division I schools on scholarships than they would if you have teams that are winning by 50 against inferior opponents. So I'm excited. I look forward to it. It's a challenge. It keeps me up at nights. I ask myself every day, what are you doing? Are you nuts? Having 5 of the top 10 teams in the schedule. I don't know if I've ever seen a high school team ever kind of pressure on themselves. I have a saying too with our program. When we develop protectors and providers and not pretenders and takers, a man is taught to run to the fire, not from it. If there's people in need, do you run away or do you run to the people that need something? So I always tell my guys, we run to the fire in order for us to achieve the goal that we're looking for.
And Larry, a lot of his success over the years is the fact that they schedule such tough competition. When you do that, kids around the region notice that, and they want to play against IMG, St. John Bosco, Matterday. They want to play against, Buford, East St. Louis, Chaminade Madonna. They want to play against these teams. Miami Central, Don Bosco. I mean, he's played all the top teams in America. If you were to look at the top 20 teams in America over the last 5 years, they've played 80% of them.
Yeah.
So that attracts a lot of kids too. I mean, it is, with every school that I deal with, when you book high profile games, your phone starts ringing from parents and their kids who want to learn more about you. So with that being said, let's talk about the 2023 schedule. Max Preps called it the toughest schedule in the history of high school football. So
I believe it.
It starts this Friday night on the Flow Football Channel. Coach is going to be bringing in his Panthers to play at Buford up in north of Atlanta. The following weekend, I'll be there in Fort Lauderdale. He's taking on Chaminade Madonna out of Hollywood, Florida, another top 10 team. Then Labor Day weekend, he goes to Illinois to play East St. Louis, who is one of the top public high school football programs in America, year in and year out. They played last year, and Coach eked it out in the last few minutes of the opening game up in Canton, Ohio. Then he flies out to Florida and plays St. John Bosco. Then he goes to Utah to play West High School, and then he finally comes home. First home game of the year, and who does he get? Matterday Monarchs, the number one team in America right now in every poll. Then you have another good team out of Connecticut later on, St. Thomas More, and then every year in November, St. Francis's last game of the season is IMG. The two teams have agreed that they play the last game on each schedule because literally it could be a mythical national championship game each and every year. So that's the last game of the season down in Bradenton, Florida. 10 games in all. He still has a few openings. He might get 11 or 12 if I can find him a few more opponents. But with that he's playing 5 of the top 10 teams in America, and that's never been done in the history of high school football.
Coach, I don't really know what you were thinking when you put that schedule together. That is a brutal schedule. Now, based on.
All right, so Coach, tell us about we just went over the schedule. Five top 10 teams, 4 away, 1 at home. Tell us your mindset, what the message is to the kids.
I mean, the mentality is always wherever we go. I'm always about trying to compete against the best and understanding what it's like to have to play on the road all the time and have not just the 11 that you're playing against, but the referees and the fans against you. And it kind of prepares them for how life is going to be. So, and then being blessed enough to have a few home games this year, first time in like 4 or 5 years, gives them the taste of a normal season, having homecoming and stuff like that for them. So I'm excited about this year.
That's great. Hey, Coach, let's talk about the ballers on your team, okay? You have 7 starred seniors. When I say star, it's 3 stars or higher. You have 7 players that are 3 stars or higher. The top seniors, Ife Obidegwu, a cornerback going to Oregon. We all know about your quarterback, Michael Van Buren, going to Oregon. DeJuan Williams, running back, going to Maryland. Educate us some more about some of your seniors you're going to be relying on this year for their abilities and their leadership.
I mean, the biggest thing I want to take is that they've been playing with some of the guys that have left the program and kind of established what type of expectation and standard that we have here as a program. For me, having to prepare them not just to compete at this level, but to prepare them to try to maximize the gift that they've been given, but work harder than the gift that they have. So they've watched the older players do the right thing, or some do the wrong thing. So they've learned in both aspects of it. And then they've seen them transition to college and seen how some of the tendencies that are good have helped them become great at the collegiate level. And then some that have kind of been pampered a little too much or believed in their own hype and in their stars or whatever people say they are, and have struggled in college because they just haven't stayed humble and hungry enough. Oddly enough, which is not odd, we have 5 former St. Francis guys in the National Football League the last 2 years, 3 years. And 4 out of 5, believe it or not, had 2 stars or less, and they only had 1 offer coming out of high school.
That's crazy. That's a great story. Somebody's got to write about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, let's talk about that standard, that, in your words, the expectation of St. Francis Academy. Knowing the tough schedule that you have set up for this upcoming season, so the kids are made aware of the schedule and how tough it's going to be. How did you set the expectation for the team in the off season, in their preparation for the 2023 season? So how did you prepare them for this upcoming tough schedule?
Well, nothing like getting thrown in the fire. They've played some of these guys. I mean, so for me, this is what happens. So you practice, you train, you go up against yourselves, which I feel we're the best opponent. And then you say to them, these games should be easier than the practice and the preparation that you've done yourselves. So that's the mentality. We play faster harder than anyone else, whether it be in the spring, in the weight room. So I create this us against the world. And in order for you to be ready, you're going to be ready because of what we do, not what anybody else is doing towards us. So we've gone to states, blue blood programs, and we've kind of not worried about who they are. We just worried about who we are. And I want to maintain the same mentality. But sometimes, too, to be honest with you, when you win and you're so successful year in, year out, you got to find a way to create an urgency and a chip on the shoulder so they're not too spoiled. They're not too comfortable, or they don't think they're too good and they smell their own selves. So it's a fine line, you know. There's days that they just don't like me, and I don't really care. As long as they respect myself and the coaches in the process, that's really what I look forward to. Because developing young men is not an easy process, and to develop a humble, great young man is painstaking.
Mm.
You know,
Right.
it's painstaking. You got to do the uncomfortable things as a head coach, and you're not trying to win a popularity contest. And I've endured my fair share of not being popular with my kids, even sometimes my coaches or my parents, the people we play against, the schools we go up against. So sometimes a lonely world as a head coach, but it's very fulfilling when you're seeing them graduate. You start seeing them at the collegiate level. Then you start not only getting their degrees, but getting shots at the NFL. Over the years, I've done it other places also. But the biggest and most important part is when they're coming back, either to coach, serve, mentor, or just are introducing me to their children. Or some of them name their, son's middle name after me. Those type of things are what makes it worth the while if I'm not getting too deep for you guys.
Nice. That's great. Hey, Coach, you talk about developing your players in general. You got some great younger players on this year's team. You have three of the top juniors in America, and Trent Wilson, Blake Woodby, and Carlton Smith. You got eight juniors that are ranked 3-star or higher. So if you combine them with the seniors, about 15 players that are highly ranked in the recruiting services. And also you got a great sophomore in James Carrington at DL. So are there any other names I'm forgetting? Any newcomers we might not know about, or when that ball kicks off at Buford on Friday night, any names going to pop out at us in addition to those that we just talked about?
Honestly, I hope a lot of them, but those names are going to be good now. Trent Wilson is not playing this Friday. Mm-hmm. He's recovering from an injury that he suffered in the spring. And then you forgot about Kevin Humes. Yep. We got so many. I'm hoping that a couple of guys will come in and shock the world a little bit. Some transfers. Peyton Nelson is one. He's a running back that's transferred to us. Cortez Harris, the defensive end, that's 2025, who's also transferred in. Brandon Thomas should step up. James Carrington. Darion Smith should stand out and become good, and he's going to kind of take the helm. Simeon Coleman is a beast. He's committed to Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. Offensive side, we have Elijah Pedro, and then we have Mason Beal Sr., who should step up and do some work. Avery Jones-Allen. Then we have some freshmen from Sensation. James Branch, he's a freshman, 2027, who's going to be a significant addition to our team. Jeremiah Koger on the receiver. Nicholas Harris. There's so many, but that's the good part about having a program. Then you have a lot of guys that are very, very capable of becoming them. And then we have a lot of guys that might not necessarily have the daunting numbers because we're so well-versed as a team.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead, Larry.
Coach, I'm just really curious about something. I was going back and looking at your record last several years, and specifically the schedules and the outcomes of those games. In an era, Joe, of modern day football, where offenses score like crazy, like 1,000 points a game or something like that. Coach, I've gone back and look at your game outcomes, and of course your offenses have scored a lot of points. But I was just pleasantly surprised to see how well your defenses have played as well in keeping scores low from your opponents. what is the key to that success when modern day football seems to be focused on offense only? How do you develop your defensive players?
So I have an amazing staff on both sides of the ball, but defensively, my associate head coach, defensive coordinator, Justin Winters, is an amazing, just a passionate, amazing coordinator, a former walk-on who's earned a scholarship. Then his assistant is Cody Acker, who's a linebacker, and he's a walk-on. Most of my coaches are walk-ons that earn scholarships, so that lets you know what that means.
Wow.
You have to come out to work and have to bet on yourself, go out and earn a scholarship in the university you're at. So literally over 10 of my coaches are former walk-ons that have earned scholarships at their universities, respective schools. So now you take that kind of work ethic and then you instill it in some of these kids that have so much talent in their pinkies that are more than our whole entire body. That combination is dangerous. So, and then our defense just flies to the ball every time. One thing I will assure you is even if we're making mistakes, we're going 1,000 miles an hour, you're going to meet 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at a time. When you have that type of speed and tenaciousness, it's going to create for turnovers and it's going to create for more success than not. So we pride ourselves in running and conditioning and running and then understanding the game. So we study it very well. Justin Winters, Coach Winters, and the entire staff just kind of develops a work ethic mentality, and we're known for that. And we're 1,000 miles an hour to the football.
Hey, Coach, on every team, there's 3 sides to every roster. We talked about offensive defense. You and I had long talks last season about special teams. You admittedly didn't have good special teams last year as far as punting and kicking goes. Because of that, many of the games you shouldn't have been as close as they were. I mean, Kahuku, you left about, 15 points on the board there in Hawaii. And then versus IMG, it seemed IMG, that last game of the season, they had the ball on your side of the field to start every drive because the punting wasn't where it could have been. Educate us how that has changed this year, the punting and the kicking game.
I mean, let's be honest. That was a huge Achilles for us. And like you said, it made games closer than needed to be. And it contributed. IMG beat us, but it contributed to our loss also at the IMG game. And it bit us in the tail for a team that's pretty good. Our talent couldn't overcome it. But, I mean, I wasn't getting caught anymore with that scenario mistake. So I have 2 kickers, a 2024 and a 2025, both can kick from 40 plus. I have a long snapper that's ranked in the top, 7 in long snapping. I didn't know they did that. And I didn't understand how you measure a long snapper until I saw him come and snap for me. I used to just have to convert somebody to be his long snapper. This kid snaps the ball off somebody. If you could put a can on top of somebody's head and he'll hit it. So we'll see what it does, how it's going to help us. And I feel that this year now we're ready with the speed and the athletes we have, the returners, and then now we got place kickers and kickoff. I mean, my field coach, my kickers are kicking out the end zone. We never did that before.
Never. No, that was always, like you said, that was an Achilles. You would play all these great teams and end up beating them, but you'd give them a head start a lot on every drive because they were always starting from their own 40. So no, that's Absolutely. Great. That's great to hear. And punting, I'm sure, obviously, you got a good punter I heard coming in. So that's going to be great to see Friday night at Buford too.
Yeah, the long snapper is Kevin Fay, and then our 2025 punter and place kicker is Will Bosack, and then our 2024 got a surprise young man that just came in, Stuart Blake. From this kid, boots it out the end zone also. So we'll see. That's
great. See, Larry, that's an example of kids. They see who Messay scheduled, and these kids get to play against the best, man. I mean, and that's what it's all about: getting the most quality film you can as a varsity player to get you to the next level. And nobody offers it better than the coaches at St. Francis.
Coach, have you done, with all that said, have you guys developed quote unquote a national rival yet? Like a team that you just look forward to playing. It's like a team of mutual respect that you just want to play every year.
IMG, baby.
Yeah, IMG.
Okay. There you go.
That's basically their only rival. That's the only team that will play. Those are the only two teams that will play each other every year, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And it's such a it is a daunting process to get people to want to play, but I never could have imagined that modern day football would fear having the chance to lose. And that's something that I'm learning that people will always do regardless. It sounds really good about wanting to compete and develop against the best until you have to do it.
Yeah, Larry, very rarely does anybody schedule a home and home against St. Francis. IMG does it every year, and kudos to Matterday. Matterday agreed to come to Charm City this year, and next year, Coach is going out to Cali to play Matterday. So that kudos to Matterday, man. They we had Coach McManus here a while back when he first took the job. They're going to continue to head in the right direction. The fact that they'll play St. Francis 2 years in a row, nobody else besides Matterday and IMG will do that. So kudos to those teams, and because of it, all of them deserve to be ranked in the top 3 in America.
Yeah, Coach. Listen, one of the last questions that I have is, but I'm really curious. The schedule that you've got coming up this year. First 2 games are on the road, but not just on the road, Joe. But they're both in the Deep South, and I'm talking about not just the heat, but the humidity. I know you guys have played in hot environments before, but your first 2 games are in August on the road in the Deep South. I don't know very much, Joe, about the weather in Maryland. Coach, is that a concern, the heat and humidity of the South in early August games, or August games, I should say?
I mean, at any level, I mean, when you're talking about Northeast to the South, yeah, absolutely. And then not to mention, I'm going to travel about, 35, 40 less players than they're going to have on the sideline.
Yeah.
So not only are we in that, we're not acclimated to their environment, or we try our hardest to simulate it, but that's a tough simulation.
Yeah.
You're not going to really feel it until you feel it. And then not to mention, on top of that, again, the personnel, we're not going to take our whole arsenal. We're going to take the 50, 55 that I can travel. So then now you're talking about they'll have 85 on the sidelines to 90 down south teams. It happened to us with Aquinas. And we've tried to prepare, practice us dead smack in the middle of the day all summer. So to simulate as close as I can, but nothing like getting smacked in the face by the heat and the humidity. We've tried to prepare them by creating every one of those guys going to be playing. So we'll see how it goes, man. It's always a challenge, but it's something we embrace, and that's what football is about.
That's right.
Hey, Larry, people were saying that too last year when they were going down to Dallas. They were going down to Dallas in the hottest part of the season, and they rolled DeSoto 47-7. So they'll be prepared. I'm sure they do it enough. Like I said, you could see it when they played St. Thomas Aquinas back in 2021. You could see in the fourth quarter the heat was getting to them. But that they learn from these experiences, and it's going to be a treat to watch them. Their first 3 games this season are all on national TV.
Yeah,
we got at Buford on the Flow Football Channel, at Chaminade Madonna on ESPN, and then at East St. Louis is also on Flow. And then, Coach, I do know that somebody now, ESPN was going to stream the Matterday game, but then something fell through there. So hopefully the Matterday game will be able to be streamed to a national audience. And then I'm sure we'll all be able to watch the IMG game from Florida also.
Absolutely.
Joe, you got anything else?
I'm good, Larry. Let's conclude.
Okay. Well, Coach, listen, sorry for the technical issues that we had. I'm glad that we were able to get you to call in on our backup phone line. It's turned out to be a fantastic interview. Listen, anytime we get to interview you, Coach, it's always good to catch up with what St. Francis Academy is doing. Guys, if you've enjoyed this interview, please check out our national website, nationalhsfb.com. You can go to that website to listen to all the interviews as well as engage in a national discussion year round, Joe, about
Year-round.
high school football, right? So,
No
Coach,
other
thank you so
place.
much for joining us on the program tonight, and we'll catch you next time, and best of luck throughout the season.
Thank you to you both. You guys have been amazing. Always great to be here with you guys. But more importantly, I love the fact of how you cover high school football, and you're extremely amazing about it.
Thanks,
Yes,
Coach. Hey, good luck Friday. We'll be watching.
Thanks, brothers. You guys have a good one.
Take care.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye.